put our telephones. My name is FAROUK ALIYU. I'm a Fulani man, through and through, from the remotest part of this country, a state called Jigawa State. To be precise, my hometown is called Ungrateful. I was a member of House of Representatives. I was Chairman of House Commission on Population during the 2006 population census. And I was also minority leader in the House of Representatives. Then I was in the ANPP. Now I want to talk to us and direct my speech to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Jonathan. And the title actually of this talk is called Ungrateful President and His People. That's the topic, that's the head of my. Now, recently, Mr. President spoke to his people, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is very sad. We believe in this country. We believe in Nigeria. I have told you what my name is, FAROUK ALIYU. I marched the street of Abuja, Lagos, and Enugu with a group called Save Nigeria to ensure that President Jonathan Goodluck takes over the mantle of leadership as acting president of this country. I also, Honorable FAROUK ALIYU, along with Barrister Sani Garindos, I make bold and I'm proud to say that I am the only Nigerian that went to court and got judgment against the Executive Council of the Federation and the Attorney General of the Federation. The court headed by Justice Abudu. I have a copy of judgment here, I will give you copies. The court to enforce Section 144 of the Constitution, forcing the Executive Council of this Federation to make him president, acting president, when the late President Arago was here, because we believe in this country. I don't know whether, good luck, we've never met. And I have no regret of doing so. Also, when the National Assembly invoked what was called doctrine of necessity, I went to court because I felt it was wrong. It was unconstitutional what they did. It was a political solution. We wanted to strengthen the constitution of this country. And I was prevailed upon by his people, what I mean people in government, that please withdraw this case because it is very, very dangerous. That if the court says what the National Assembly did was unconstitutional, there could be military takeover in this country. And for the love of democracy, I withdrew the case. All to ensure that we have one country. But recently, from that time, if you remember very well, in 2010, during the 50th anniversary of this country, a bomb was detonated at Eagle Square. Mr. President was quick to come and claim that his people, that's what he said, men, his people, could not have been part of that thing. And now it's history. We know one of them is being tried and convicted in South Africa. And you also remember the same president on his campaign trail went to Ibadan and called the Yoruba nation rascals, that part of the country cannot be left in the hands of rascals. We believe in this country. We want one Nigeria. And recently also through his spokespeople, they were threatening this country and the people of this country. Fire and brimstone if he is not re-elected. Thank God President Jonathan Goodluck did not come through military takeover. President Jonathan Goodluck got 419,000 votes from my state, Jigawa State. 419,220 to be precise. In my state, 100% Muslims, Fulanis. The combined candidates of General Muhammad Buhari, Nuhu Ribadu, Shekarau got less than 6,000 votes from that part of the country. And if you remember very well as well, President Jonathan Goodluck, we went to court to challenge the election. The justices of the Court of Appeal and those of the Supreme Court are not people from his part of the country, but they did what they feel was right. And today we have him as our president. But Mr. President is beating the drums of war from the rear. Mr. President is preaching genocide, hatred, racism, ethnic cleansing against certain people, certain part of the country. And if any Nigerian is hurt or killed, as of today we are all Nigerians. And if Mr. President will be the person to divide this country, so be it. But we call on him to have a rethink and know that preaching of violence will not take us anywhere, because I repeat, nobody has the monopoly of violence. Nobody. In this country, there are people who tie bombs around themselves and blow themselves. So Mr. President knows very well that there are people willing to do anything if he wants violence. And Mr. President spoke about corruption. Specifically mentioned General Muhammad Buhari as most corrupt. Right. I put it to President Jonathan Goodluck that we have a case with the police. It's there. 170 million naira that Dame Jonathan, his wife, when he was governor of Bayelsa State, a bank reported that that money was taken by Jane, a personal assistant to Mrs. Goodluck Jonathan, and that money is still with the police because he's president today. Always will go after that. And then President Jonathan Goodluck, if you remember very well, on the national television said that to hell with all of us Nigerians, that he was not going to declare his assets. We challenged President Goodluck Jonathan to declare his assets because we know that the epitome of corruption lies in the presidency. Now, if you also remember very well that Mr. President calls people from his part of the country his own people, forgetting the fact that, and he also through his spokespeople, saying that politics is not a game of number. Well, threatening, Mr. President threatening that there will be military takeover in this country. Mr. President saying that whatever amount, whatever numbers are giving, they will not accept. I told you, I was Chairman House Committee on Appropriation, and to be fair to former President Obasanjo, who was the president at that time, I was the chairman. When he called us for a meeting with the National Population Commission, he said that, look, I do not want to be the first person to know the result of the elections in this country, the census, the population census in this country. Which means there was no interference from Mr. President of that time, nothing, and the results came out. We know his own people, that's President Jonathan Goodluck. We know as of today, and he's the president of this country as of today, the exact population of his people. because he does not consider us, all of us, as his people. And we call on Mr. President to immediately disassociate himself with these drums of war. His people saying that let they dare anybody to arrest them. This address is directed at him because we know, everybody knows, that it is only the president of a country that can say nobody can arrest me. And of course nobody can arrest the president. As of today, nobody from his part of the country has been invited to answer questions, at least about military takeover. We as politicians and as Nigerians don't want military takeover. But I'm assuring Mr. President that yes, we are planning takeover, not through the guns, through elections, proper elections, and by the grace of God, President Jonathan Goodluck will be the last president that will treat Nigerians the way he's treating us, because there will be elections. By the grace of God, we shall vote him out. Nigerians shall vote him out, and that will be the end of the terror we are in this country now. And you remember very well, Mr. President said to all of us that there are terrorists in his government. He said so. This is the president who said these kind of things. And we are condoning it. Yes, because we believe he's still the president of this country. And I assure him and his own people, because he does not consider us as people, I Fulani man, he has threatened to ethnically cleanse me, to take me out of this country. But as of today, he is my president. And I believe he is my president as of now. But I also want him and his people to know that if Mr. President decides to divide the country today, we will be glad. The people he wants ethnically cleansing. And I also want to draw his attention that, look, if you say Fulani, you're not talking to just the Fulani. You're talking to Igbos, to Yorubas, to Ijos, to everybody. We are all Nigerians. Mr. President should know that as of today, we are all Nigerians. And he has responsibility to treat us as Nigerians. Thank you very much. So if there's any question.
Well, sir. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I believe you must have read the response of Chief Edwin Clark that was published yesterday in This Day, where he not only tried to explain Asari Dokubo as somebody we all know that is a rabble rouser, that as the leader of the Ijaw nation, well, somebody that is seen as a leader from that region, that he does not condone such talk. But he equally cited instances where Asari Dokubo's comment will not be the first that will be made from that part of the country. In fact, he even listed some instances. That was one of these. Oh, well, he listed some instances where people from the north, and I believe your name too was mentioned among those who made similarly inciting statements, and nothing was done. So while you were making your presentation, I expected that if at least for the sake of clarity, you could have at least explained what you meant at that particular time, or what people like Chiroma said. It will now be, we will now have a situation where we have a proper understanding of what you are trying to say.
First of all, my name is FAROUK ADAMU, just to remind you again, in case you have forgotten. So if you want to talk to, go and talk to them. But if you listen carefully, I did not mention the name of anybody except the president. But you mentioned Edwin Clark. So I'm putting it to you that Edwin Clark is one of the problems of this country. Edwin Clark, that you have mentioned, and so many other people. I will not mention names until if you ask me if you mention another name. He started this thing. He started this kind of thing. He started by saying it's their turn. He said that whether we like it or not, President Jonathan Goodluck has already won the primaries of PDP, has already won the election. And I'm telling you that with the way things are going now, elections shall be free and fair. Shall be free and fair. And if there are elections free and fair, with the comments of people from that part of the country, we want them to say whatever we said against them. And God knows, I told you my antecedents. I also make bold to say that I am the only Nigerian politician or elected person who went through referendum to be recalled from the National Assembly because of my stance against the third term of President Obasanjo. And I told you I went to court. The judgment is here. For Goodluck Jonathan, I have never met him in my life. All for this country. Edwin Clark has not done anything to unite this country the way I, Honorable FAROUK, ADAMU have done. So, to me, Edwin Clark and President Goodluck are one and the same. And it just cannot be said to be Nigerian. What I'm saying, all of them, they are only Nigerians. You, probably Yoruba man, I, Fulani man, Nubi, and all of us, we are all Nigerians. We don't want this sentiment of where I come from, because I'm telling you, I've been in government. When politicians are going to steal money, they don't talk about where you come from. They don't talk about your religion. Politicians, the elites in the south and the north sit together and steal our strike. So let's understand that, look, President Jonathan Goodluck should be sanctioned by us, Nigerians, by trying to divide this country. And all those people speaking on his behalf, if he cannot come out boldly to say, look, I cannot be president of Nigeria with only votes from Ijos. Thank you.
2 quick points. First of all, you have referred to the president, and we know that some of these statements were made by other persons. So that is the first point. You are ascribing to the president of Nigeria what other people, statements that other private citizens of Nigeria made about him. And the other point is this. Without standing to justify what Asari said in his statement, he referred to people heating up the polity previously, and people saying that before the last election, there are people who said that if President Jonathan became the president of the country, of Nigeria, they will make Nigeria ungovernable for him, and that's what's happening.
Invited to SSS several times to explain certain things. But here we are today, as of today, nobody has threatened the existence of this country like the president himself. Nobody has done that. Nobody has said, my people, referring to them as Ijos. I, a Fulani man, who got 419,000 votes from my people, from Fulani people in Jigawa State. He does not think that Jigawa people are his people. Somebody who says that, look, my people cannot plant a bomb, and his people came and said, we planted the bomb. Today, one of them is in jail in South Africa. Everything revolves around him. And he's the president, and he's the greatest beneficiary of all these things. He's guarded by us, our money and everything, and so on. And I put it to Mr. President as well. Corruption starts and finishes in the villa. I have been in the National Assembly and I know what it means.
Right, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Stanley Musi. I report for Radio Nigeria. Mine borders on the high level of insecurity in the country today, which is virtually affecting everybody. I thought you would have dwelled into that when because of your listing. For you, what is the way out? The thing is getting out of hands. Or do we wait until, as you said, your party, by God's grace, will rise so far from...
I didn't speak about my party.
Okay.
So we.
Nigerians, okay.
Okay, thank you. Now, I think the biggest security challenge we have in the north lies with the governors and in the federal government. In the northern part of the country, you find out that most of our governors engage in building airports. In Jigawa, they are building airport. In Bauchi, they are building airport. In Taraba, they are building airport. In Kebbi, they are building airport. I mean, in Katsina, government house in Katsina, 15 billion or so. So, if these funds are not channeled towards agriculture, engaging the people, when you deny people education, because when you give people education, there are a certain level of nonsense they will not take. Now, when you deny people education, you deny them livelihood, of course you will get these kind of things. So I call on the governors and the federal government to please address these issues. And as long as these issues will not be addressed, and there are sacred cows, you know, like when the president said, there are terrorists in my government. He did not come out to show us those terrorists. So how do you expect this thing to go away? It will not go away. Amnesty is not enough. If there should be living example for fight against terrorism in this country, living example, or living example for fight against corruption in this country, we all don't have them. So as long as you don't have them as a government, this insecurity will continue. But of course, when the government changes, when serious people come to take over, there will be, nobody will be above them. But as of today, so many people are above them, you know that.
To draw it back to the major plank of your briefing, the issue of utterances by people. Like one of our colleagues referred to, the clerk responded to what was said or what the House did, calling for the investigation of Asari Dokubo and Kuku. But he also went further to say that he does not endorse such statements from those people, but that if they must be investigated, that those other people who made similar statements or even worse statements before should be invited. And he mentioned General Muhammad Buhari, Lajilawa Keita, and about 3 other people, Shiroma and about 2 other people. Now, sir, what do you have to say about this? Shouldn't these people be also investigated?
Including you.
For what they have said about Nigeria?
Yes.
Have they not threatened the security of this country? And
that anybody, me inclusive, that have made any statement that is divisive or that can bring about a problem should be invited. Simple. That's just it. But the law does not, they don't work. All these people that have made, all of us that have made these statements, none of us have said, arrest me if you can. I dare you to arrest me. And if you don't arrest me, you are shameless coward.
Because nobody said they should arrest you at that time.
Who?
They said they should arrest him. That's why he's daring that, okay, you didn't arrest the damn man. Come and arrest me. Let me see.
No, what are you speaking on his behalf?
No, I'm just quoting what was
said.
said.
So if you're not speaking on, I'm telling you, if you're not speaking on his behalf, I have also been invited, to, not this time around, but of course other times, of course I have all my profile with. What I'm saying, anybody, let there be example. If I have done anything wrong, I should be arrested. I should be prosecuted. So that there will be example that I have done this and that and that, and that this government cannot condone, these kind of offenses. But not when somebody, that's why we're saying it's the president talking. He's the one himself talking, because he's the only person that cannot be arrested. Thank you.
My name is Ungrateful. I write for Daily Trust. I want to understand clearly, sir. Whether political or ethnic, because you keep emphasizing your house of like you and you. I wonder how you are speaking in your capacity. Take on this, sir. Even though you lumped up the issue of Edwin Clark, Asari Dokubo, and the rest of them, Goodluck Jonathan with the Ijaw Nation, I don't know whether you are aware that even some of the elders in the Ijaw Kingdom have come out to speak against what some of these people have said, like Tam David West, who even attacked Asari Dokubo in the similar. In view of these circumstances, do you still hold the Ijaw Nation of President Goodluck Jonathan?
This question, because day before yesterday I was so disappointed. I was amongst certain people. When you publish, they will know. Some former ministers, highly placed people from Ijaw Nation, who were condoning those utterances, who were even telling me that yes, You, these Fulani people, we have to deal with you. And I feel if elites like them, educated people who have benefited also in this country, are talking like that, then it is President Jonathan Goodluck talking. Now, whether I'm speaking on behalf of anybody, I'm speaking on behalf of myself, like I said, Fulani man. I am very proud I did not choose to be a Fulani man, just like you did not choose to be a Basic or so. So I'm very proud to be a Fulani man. And you see, I want you to also understand that I told you that the elites of this country are one and the same. The Muslims and the Christians, the Ijos and the Fulanis, at that level are the same. But now we have somebody who is trying to say, look, we are different. That's Mr. President and his generation.
Speaker, I have a question.
But when you started, you made a clarification about the need for the nation to hold Jonathan responsible for his utterances. And with what you have said now, you are also trying to replace the fact that the entire Ijaw elite condoned this, and you expected them to condemn it. But if you do this nation a great favor by at least trying to mention one or two names you had interaction with, because Chief Edwin Clark, one of the leaders of the Ijaw nation you have accused as encouraging these things, came out clearly to mention names. So will it not be proper for you to say, look, I interacted with Mr. A, with Mr. B, with Mr. C, and they all encourage this thing, and that is why we are calling on government to take decisive steps, and that is why we say that the entire Ijaw nation or the leadership of a particular ethnic group is playing an ethnic card. So can you do us a favor by mentioning these names?
Now I'm coming out in the open. I dare them to come out in the open and say what they said to me in private. So, I mean, I will not divulge their names. I cannot say their names. But I am coming forward and, honestly, I'm not scared of death. Because unfortunately, or fortunately, all of us will die somehow. Everybody. So I would rather die an honorable person than to die a coward. Thank you.
Is at the center of this issue is the politics of oil. Apparently, it is a region that the resources we all depend on. And then, in a way, it's becoming a convention that once somebody is sworn into office, he has to take his full cost to them. And so, that probably informed the utterances by Dr. Jonathan. Don't you think there is sense in what they are saying? Tolerate Mr. President for the 80s, and then he would have taken his vote.
Bayelsa belongs to Jigawa. The oil in Delta belongs to Jigawa. As long, yes, because we are called Nigeria today. And I told you, I also, when I was in the House, I was a member of the NDDC. And what I saw there, the elites of Niger Delta are responsible for the problems of Niger Delta. Them alone. Them alone. If in this country, certain person who could barely express himself in English is in charge of the territorial security of the marine security of this nation, it's open. Millions of billions of dollars contract is given to somebody who are sadly responsible for wars of classroom. So that's what I'm telling you. The oil belongs to us all. And we as Nigerians shall do everything possible to make sure we take that oil so that a lot of people will have the oil as well. Will have the money of the oil. Anybody who thinks the oil of Bayelsa belongs to only Bayelsa is just deceiving himself. As long as we are in Nigeria, we will make sure that we have uninterrupted supply of oil so that there will be uninterrupted supply of money to Jigawa State. As long as we are called Nigeria. Thank you.
The question is actually generating a lot of heat in the politics. And there was a doomsaying already by some ambassador from the US that 2015 will be the end of Nigeria. Nobody thinks that should be. But at the end of the day, don't you think, like some statesmen around Nigeria have been saying, we should have a proper dialogue so that it won't be one Ijo man hitting one Fulani man. It will be sit down to say, okay, these are the differences we have. Let's talk about them, and then let's resolve that. These are issues that we all agree about, and then let's put it in the constitution so that it will just make sure that everybody is on the same table, on the same page, and then Nigeria will say, okay, proudly, we are Nigerians because we believe in certain values together.
Fortunately for all of us here, we have National Assembly, and the Constitution has vested that powers in them to discuss this kind of thing. But of course, I don't mind if we discuss who we are. And the truth of the matter is that if I fly from Kano to Lagos, I know I am in a different place. We don't dress the same way, we don't eat the same food, that kind of thing. And there are certain things that if you do in Kano, you will not go scot-free. You know, vice versa. So of course we are not the same people. We have to understand that, look, I am a Fulani man, and Ijo is different, Yoruba is different, but then God has made us to stay together. So why can't we attempt to stay together? And I honestly do not mind, even if we're going to part ways. Let's sit on the table and agree that, look, that oil of Bielsa, Jigawa cannot have a share. No way. You know, I don't mind us talking like that. But as of today, that oil, we shall do everything within our means, everything with our blood, defend our oil in Bielsa. We will do everything possible to defend that oil in Bielsa. It belongs to Jigawa State as well. You know, so that's what I want them to understand. This country fought civil war, and that's probably why we are still together. And anybody who threatened, unless if we are defeated, then we can leave the oil. But if anybody threatens the flow of oil, we shall fight and make sure oil flows. Thank you.
But some people are of the opinion that they are no longer interested in this marriage of 100 years. Will you now then suggest that there should be divorce?
Well, after discussions first, we need to discuss before we decide we are not going to be together. But as of today, I believe in Nigeria. You can never see me without this. This is part of my dress code. I'm telling you. And I've told you a series of things that I've done to make Nigeria one. I mean, when we were walking the streets of Abuja and Lagos and Enugu, where were the Ijaw people? Where were they? When I went to court, did Jonathan Goodluck give me money to go to court against a Fulani man like me? No. We did it for Nigeria. That's why I'm saying Ijaw oil, Bielsa oil belongs to Jigawa people. And we shall do everything possible to defend our oil in Bielsa. Because God put our oil in Bielsa, just like God has put mineral resources of Bielsa in Jigawa.
Yeah, excuse me, sir. I'm from the News Agents of Nigeria now. My name is Gabriel. I can see you talking more on Hawaii. Now, what's your advice to the National Assembly concerning the PIB?
You know, my honest opinion is that I told you I was a member of the NDDC. If the governors of those parts of the country can put that 13%, the NDDC will work. Minister of Niger Delta will be allowed to work. The PIB to me is non-starter. In fact, I will campaign against that PIB. There are certain, like when the oil producing communities are seeking for share in our oil, that shall not happen. And you will see we will campaign also. I mean, it's politics. Let them also campaign. It's not through fight or through war. No, through dialogue. We shall do everything possible to make sure everything stays as it is. Use the resources you have. If Bielsa will get the resources, the amount of money Bielsa gets in a month is more than the amount of money 4 or 5 states in the north get in a month. It's there. These records are there, published every day. If you don't utilize them, go to Kano and see what governor of Kano State is doing. I'm telling you. We are not on the same page, but the truth must be said. Go to Lagos. See what governor of Lagos is doing. But when you go to Bielsa, see what the governor...
They are campus in check instead of moving all over the country and killing people. So it's what you suggest how to read.
This problem is not just in maybe other parts of it. It happens in my state as well. You know, but the problem is because of the rain season. And my people have cows, of course, that they need to feed. But I think the government is doing something now. I've seen that they are trying to arrange for grazing areas in all the states, whereby they will be confined to those grazing areas. And I hope if government does that, it will solve the problem.
All right, sir. Let me ask this question.
Finally.
Well, perhaps finally. I write for Blueprint and Kingsley. I think the brain behind this crisis, he wants to get one share or the other from oil. Don't you think it is high time we advised some of these governors to temporarily put their mind away from oil, come back to their place, to their states, look inward, and find a way to harness what they have as a way of shifting focus from these boiling points? Advise them to do that.
I totally in manpower to agriculture, mineral resources, other mineral resources than oil. I agree with you, of course. But as long as the oil is there, we'll work on the oil first.